Hey there, I'm Sarita, and you're about to experience the modern approach to well being where you get to establish the best and most important relationship you will ever have, the one with yourself. I'm on a mission to help you declutter energy and reclaim your power so you can be a magnet to what you desire. If you're looking for the optimal blend of mindset and healing, you're in the right place. My goal in this podcast is to share tools, resources, and practices that will help you along your healing journey. I'm so excited to be here with you today, so welcome to Back to Here with Sarita. Let's get started. Hey there, beautiful soul. Welcome back to my favorite time that I love spending here with you on the podcast every other Monday when it goes live on Back to Here with Sarita, the new Manifesting Paradigm podcast. So I want to talk about something, and this is a result of some things that are happening in my life and also some things that I'm noticing that are happening kind of on a collective level as well. I'm going to be talking about or sharing from my own personal experience, and then we'll be talking about the capacity gap, right? So what actually happens when your 3D reality catches up to your internal reality work that you've been doing? And this is exactly where I am. Expansion is something I've talked about within manifestation. Just to back up a little bit, you have been following me for a while in this podcast, and I truly believe that I feel like I've been kind of doing you a disservice in the way, because manifestation has been really sold over these last few years, especially as this very woo-woo practice. There's a lot more science, thank goodness, people are bringing into it, and I'm really, really grateful. A lot of people's introduction to manifestation is through like the law of attraction, because that's very, very common. And I also feel like manifestation is so much more, intentional manifesting is so much more. Hence the reason I've come up with kind of the tagline, manifestation as liberation. And I'll go into that a little bit more and like exactly what that means. I've been utilizing manifestation for the last 5+ years to really reconstruct my life after my breakup. I've shared this story many times. And yet how I was sharing manifesting, I feel like was from a very surface level perspective. And I didn't realize it was a very watered down perspective. The diet industry, I've used this example before. It's very mainstream. And so a lot of people like to jump on board with it. If you open up TikTok, there's so many gym influencers and people like wellness things. And it's just, it's a trend. It's a really big trend. I definitely feel like I have succumbed to the trend. And so I am choosing to change the way that I'm talking about manifestation to hone in on issues and concerns and experiences that aren't necessarily spoken about very frequently. And that's the meat and potatoes of this episode. I feel like this is very potent time we're living in right now. And I've shared this with my medicine sisters that I do Ep.078 with. Perhaps it's because of the astrological transitions that are happening. If you follow that, we've got the Lunar New Year that just happened. The fire horse opened up to a new year. The numerology, apparently this is a year, I don't know, I've heard both, either a year 10, a year 1, new beginnings, things like that. And yet we also have the astrology transits. We have Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which is ginormous. Aries is the beginning of the zodiac wheel, and both of those just met at 0 degrees. That is literally the beginning. So maybe that's the reason why there's that feeling of like shedding and just confusion. Like if you don't have a plan, if you don't know what's going on, and you just kind of start the race, you're like, I don't know what to do. That is the feeling that I'm feeling. And that's the feeling I am getting from people as well, where there's a vision and there's a desire, yet it's just kind of what happens, and what happens when you manifest things into your reality and you don't know what to do to hold and maintain them. And especially that speaks to people that have a different story, that have a different experience than the norm, right? So somebody that may have to work through different blocks and barriers when it comes to money, because maybe they came here to the United States, this is where I live in the United States, to the United States as an immigrant, right? Or they saw their parents struggle working 3 or 4 different jobs. And so there are different stories and experiences they may have to work through versus somebody that grew up in the middle class and maybe has a different story about money. Okay, I'm just using money as an example here. Going back to kind of the time that we're living in, it is very powerful times that we're living in. And I feel like there's a lot of overwhelm that's happening. Overwhelm with politics. There's overwhelm with society concerns. There is overwhelm with what happens next. There's overwhelm with, I'm tired of my 9 to 5 job. I really want to leave and do something else, even more so, right? And overwhelm with AI. Oh my goodness, that's a whole thing, and not knowing what's real and what's fake anymore. There's just an overwhelm of a lot of things. And this has been translating into my life recently. And I realize my overwhelm is from, yes, a little bit of the what's, happening in my 3D, as in, society and politics. I try really hard to keep myself at a distance for my own well-being and my mental health, of course. And also I like to stay somewhat informed. So it's definitely a dance. And I'm sure you understand this from your own personal experience. Sometimes you can get really caught up into what's happening. And then sometimes you just want to shut your phone off and toss it, in the trash because you just don't want to have to deal with things. So yes, these things are happening. And so I want to shed light on the fact that you're not alone in this. There is a state of overwhelm. There's a state of what's happening next. What do I do? And maybe you've had your eyes shut and maybe you've been really laser focused on what it is that you desire to create in your life. And maybe there's a lot of internal dialogue. I'm not sure what's happening, but I know that there is just a lot of transitioning happening. That is, we are very intuitive people. We're here in this 3D reality experiencing life as a spiritual being in a 3D reality. I really do believe that. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive into this episode. I just wanted to give a little shedding light on some things that may be happening in your universe right now, in your world. And this is nothing to be ashamed of. And my own personal experience is happening as well. And I'll share with you what is happening with me. If you follow me on social media at Sarita Wellness, or you follow me on my Facebook page, I believe it's under Sarita Elizabeth or Life of Sarita B. I have done a good job of sharing my wins and personal breakthroughs, especially being a nomad. I feel like there's a lot of aesthetics that are happening within my nomadic life, just kind of curated and making it look really romanticized. And I want to shed light on this. And I did this in my episode that closed out 2025, that nomad life is very romanticized. It is something that I believe YouTube and social media has done a really great job in regards to making it seem like this idyllic lifestyle. And it's wonderful. Don't get me wrong, it is wonderful. Yet there are so many lessons and so many breakthroughs and so many things that I'm learning within this process. And I try to do my darned hardest to share. And yet also I have this like back and forth where I feel like I need to update my audience. I need to share things. I need to do more. Like they need to know what's going on with me. And yet that creates this sense of overwhelm with me because I'm like, I'm trying to navigate my life. I'm trying to understand things. I'm also trying to enjoy my life and not overwhelm myself with like all the things that are happening on top of content creation. So that being said, there is a sense of, yes, a lot of wins and lots of celebrations that I've been sharing with you. I hosted my first Manifestation as Liberation workshop. I have done a lot of traveling. I'm in my last official 3 months in my nomadic lifestyle. So each I would say quarter has a different theme that I've had different breakthroughs and different things that have happened. Also, I feel like there's this sense of like, I haven't done enough. I haven't done enough documentation. I haven't done enough. And so what is coming forth for me is this grandiose feeling of not only overwhelm, but this really grandiose feeling of internalized self-judgment when it comes to a lot of different things in my business, in my sharing on social media, sharing here on my podcast, curating content to be able to share things with you. And yes, I've had some amazing wins. And one of the biggest ones that I have not shared outright to my audience, and I've shared this with just a couple of my friends, is my desire for alcohol. And that means like going out and like having a cocktail every once in a while or pouring that glass of wine after a long week has completely dissipated. So I have not had alcohol for the last few months and it feels very liberating. And it was one of those things that I just didn't really even have the intention, heavy hearted intention to release, but yet it's something that I have released. And I do definitely want to share a little bit more about this in another episode. But these things are happening, right? And so I'm having these wins and I'm having these things transition in my life. I've let go so heavily of Sarita 2.0 that I experienced in San Diego. And I've really started embracing Sarita 3.0 in many, many different ways. That being said, my capacity has grown. My ability to hold and maintain my new manifestations, right? This new identity has really grown. And yet, the gap that I'm experiencing is the really severe sense of self-judgment that has come forth. And one of the things that has come forth for me is this innate fear. And I didn't even realize this until I was sharing this in a new moon ceremony that I have with a group of women that I'm a part of. We call it a coven. And I've been with them for about a year now. And we have these moon ceremonies, which I absolutely love. And one of the things that came forth for me is the realization how scared I am of my power, how scared I am of my abilities and the message that I'm sharing here on my podcast, within my business, within my workshops, utilizing manifestation in this very unique way, manifestation as a tool for liberation, and not necessarily the way that it has been taught, which is the woo woo and 3 steps to manifest your specific person or manifest your paid for lifestyle that I was promoting before, right? That was heavily a part of the theme within my business is manifest your paid for lifestyle, because I wanted people to manifest a life that they were proud of and they loved living and they loved waking up to. And then becoming a nomad, I realized so much of that was a watered down and, in my opinion, very colonized way of thinking, where manifestation has been kind of epitomized as this tool to, I wouldn't say bypass, but just like woo woo create our life in front of us. And yes, take aligned action and these other things, but so much is aesthetic. And some of the people that I follow are just very aesthetically appealing. You know the people I'm referring to, right? Like very aesthetically appealing when it comes to their Instagram posts and things like that. And it's very challenging, I do have to say, to share the raw, authentic version of yourself on social media. And I'm not saying because of like judgment or anything like that, but it's very challenging to share that because so much is sold to be aesthetically appealing. That kind of goes back to my point about AI, where so much you don't know what's real, what isn't real, right? And so we have to use a lot of discernment when it comes to that. So for me, sharing these things, again, this goes back to the self-judgment. Do I really want to share this? Like, I'm moving through this right now. I'm experiencing this right now. How do I actually share this if I'm still trying to navigate these emotions? So the overwhelm's coming. I'm increasing my capacity to be able to share this information with people, right? So they can help and relate and understand and see themselves in this experience. But yet at the same time, I'm still trying to hold on or build this new identity that I've created for myself. So let me put this into perspective for you. One of the wins that I had recently that I never thought that I could do before is very, very simple. I have, thank goodness, been in a much more healthy financial position than I've ever been in my life. And so when I went to go take my car in recently, I was able to pay for the maintenance on the car in cash. No credit card necessary, no credit necessary, no need to get a loan. And this has never happened to me before. Like, never happened to me before, where I can pay something with such a big bill in cash without blinking an eye. This is huge for me in regards to the money handling, in regards to not craving alcohol or wanting alcohol, in regards to the fact that I have embraced this 3.0 Sarita version. If you're watching this on YouTube, you may notice that I chopped my hair off. If you follow me on social media, I made this really big post about me really going back to my ancestral wisdom and utilizing cutting my hair off as a symbolism to release old version of me, but also embrace new version of me, cutting off literally the dead ends, dead version of Sarita, embracing this. So a lot of intention is happening for me, embracing this 3.0 Sarita version. And yet this capacity that I have is creating this big gap within myself, because I have this fear. I have a lot of fear. And we think when we see people on social media, or we see people receiving all these different wins, maybe manifesting a new partner, manifesting a new house, and it's exciting and it's wonderful, and we're celebrating them. They have a new baby, right? We're celebrating them. There is a lot happening behind the scenes for that person. I can't even imagine somebody that manifests a baby, right? And like the anxiety of being a mother and all the things that come within motherhood. And then somebody that has a new house, like all these different more responsibilities, right? And so oftentimes we don't receive our manifestation because of what we make that thing signify. Oh my gosh, more responsibility, more money means more responsibility, a larger home means more responsibility, right? And so we have this very ingrained story in our society. And I really truly believe this is a very colonized way of thinking, that we've been conditioned to think that our ability to handle more, our ability to have more on our plate, meaning the larger house, the nice car, the partner, the more money, somehow is equal to our state of worthiness, being good, being disciplined, and somehow more means equals success. That somehow having more equates being a successful person. Like how I learned from, this is the old version of me learning, like a CEO is somebody that has a large home and they have this large corporation, this large company that they're holding and maintaining, and they know everything that's happening in that company and blah blah, all the things, right? Like this is just what I thought. Like they're constantly on, they wake up at 4:30 in the morning and they do their cold plunge and they go to the gym and they eat this really healthy protein shake, and then they dive into their day. By like 7:30 they're already winning, like that Miracle Morning book. They're already winning, and then they're creating this amazing lifestyle, and they're able to like navigate hanging out with their kids and going to the meetings and having all these different things happening, right? And they're driving this electric car and they're winning at life because they're saving the environment, and they're using reusable bags and all these different things, right? That we're just subjected to all the time, that somehow doing all these different things is somehow proof that we are disciplined and worthy and successful and we're good. And then flip side, somebody that doesn't have all that, somehow they're not successful, they're not good. And so it creates this like gap. We have this belief gap that somehow that's happening for those people. I want to go back to me as an example, that I have been manifesting left and right, places to stay and connections, and like being able to say to my guides, to God, source, universe, this is what I want, and being able to receive it pretty quickly. And how it feels magical in a way to be able to receive things. And it feels kind of like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. Like, how is this possible? Like there was an old version of me that wasn't able to manifest things so quickly. Is this true? Is this real? Is this really happening? How is this happening for me? What am I doing differently? Like questioning myself, realizing that I'm in this deep sense of self-judgment. I've had multiple dreams recently where I'm judging myself hardcore about things that are happening in my reality. And so this expansion that I'm feeling as I'm talking about this right now, my neck is if you're watching this on video, I'm rubbing my neck because just even talking about this gives me a sense of dis-ease a little bit, but also talking about it helps me make it feel a little less unreal, if that makes sense. When we go to therapy, for example, we share things that are on our chest. It just feels lighter after we share it. So this capacity gap that I've been feeling is while I've been manifesting these things into my life and creating this embodiment version of Sarita 3.0 that can pay for things in cash without a blink of an eye and create connections and have a workshop manifesting with ease and having it filled up, these things, manifesting places to stay and all these things that I've at one time didn't realize would have even been possible for me. I feel like there's a fear that I've been experiencing of me and my power. The question of how is this possible? Waiting for the other shoe to drop. Let me know if you relate to that, where everything is so good, everything is happening in your favor when things are going so well. And yet we have this emotional experience happening within us where it's we're kind of tensed up in a way, thinking, when is the other shoe going to drop? When is that going to happen? When is the bad thing going to happen, right? It's too good to be true. We know that expression, right? That's a very common expression. So my fear of my power is really, really real. I didn't realize this until, like I said, I was doing the full moon ceremony, or not full moon, sorry, new moon ceremony, because it was in Aquarius, just happened the other day. And I feel like this fear of power is really real, not just for myself, but I feel like it's very real in underrepresented folks as well. That we are kept in this place of we have to work really hard to keep up in order to somehow keep up an image, keeping up a facade, making us feel better, all the things, right? There's a lot of different reasons why that keeping up can potentially feel like a way in which we are combating this gap that we may be experiencing. And so what I've experienced during this time frame where my expansion, right? Just think of a balloon filling up with air, that expansion, right? So there's more room within that balloon, but the more a balloon expands with air, the more potential it is thinned out to pop, right? So when a balloon barely has any air in it, the rubber's thicker, sticking a pin into it, it is more challenging to pop, right? But as the balloon expands, I'm just using this image, what it feels like right now. This isn't necessarily the truth, right? But as the balloon expands, that rubber gets a little bit thinner. And so it's a lot more easy. That's why when you release balloons, if you're just, blowing them up, and sometimes they just pop because there's just too much. It's just too much air. It's too much for it to hold. And so it just explodes. That is not what I'm saying will happen. I'm saying that will happen if we are not, I am not, right? Because I'm in this state right now, not just regulating my nervous system along the way, but also allowing myself to acknowledge, have gratitude, sit with the discomfort of the expansion. One of the things that I personally do is to do EFT tapping, to remind myself this is my current reality, this is what I've wanted. I am completely safe to be here. I'm safe. This is my new self, right? Yes, I might be fearful of my power, but I'm also really grateful that I'm here in this moment, right? And what happens oftentimes is this old programming, I should say, will oftentimes try to come back and assert itself. The old programming, which is what I was just mentioning, this disbelief that, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. The disbelief of how is this even possible? The disbelief of waiting for the other shoe to drop, because that's been my old way of being, my old way of thinking has been very volatile in certain ways. For example, when I was very little,
I have a single mother. I grew up with a single mother household. My mother was exhausted 99% of the time because she was a teacher. She was raising two children. She's also a manifester. If you know anything about human design, manifestors need a lot of rest. I mean, a lot of rest. They have creative sparks, right? They're informers. They're constantly informers. My mom has a moon in Aquarius as well, so she's very unique in that way. And so she didn't understand her design, right? And therapy wasn't a thing, like all these things, right? And so she navigated life very exhausted and very frustrated with like outcomes of things that weren't necessarily going her way. Also, I truly believe with my mother, there's a lot of unconscious patterns, subconscious patterns that really held her in a childlike state. That's not necessarily childlike in a nice way, right? In a way where there's a lot of patterning that was never a wounded child. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. So there's a lot of child wounding there. And so I felt like as a child that I felt like I had to be the emotional grown up in the way, not necessarily verbally saying things, but the emotional grown up in the way as a moon in Pisces, which wasn't helpful either. A moon in Pisces holding the space for the person that was going through their emotional roller coaster. So, therefore, because I was having the experience of volatility in my home, because I never knew what it was that I was going to get, what kind of mood is my mom in today, right? So, I had to hold the space. So, of course, my whole upbringing has been this waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for something bad to happen. Oh no, when is she going to lose her shit, right? That was always kind of the thought or the belief or my background monitor that was going on. So, of course, that navigated with me, that led me through my lifestyle and relationships and work situations, all the things, right? And so, when it comes to manifestation, that stuff does not disappear automatically. That does not, that mindset, that experience, that belief, those thinkings, that doesn't just automatically appear or disappear when I am doing my manifestation work or my intentional manifesting work. Fast forward to today, present time, this old identity, which I am working through and helping myself, this old programming, trying to assert its dominance in my current 3D reality in my Sarita 3.0 is telling me, just wait, Sarita, the other shoe's going to drop soon. Something's going to happen where you're just going to lose all the money that you've been saving, or you're not going to manifest a place to stay, or your car is going to break. All these different stories that are happening in my head. You're scared of your power. What if your message doesn't work? What if people don't care about what you have to say? What if this amazing thought program that you're creating, the bliss method movement that I'm creating currently, is just going to completely flop, right? All these different things that are happening in my head. The overwhelm is completely real. These are conversations that I've had with myself recently in my new identity construction. And so it's this gap that I'm experiencing from Sarita 2.0, embodying Sarita 3.0, who's already arrived and I'm already experiencing her. I'm already in it. And so there's this kind of this tug back and forth. I'm not fully into 3 to 5 years worth of Sarita 3.0. I'm within like, I would say a couple months, maybe like 3-4 months. So there's this overlap. There's this gap that's happening. And it can be overwhelming just experiencing this new identity. Maybe you have gone through a breakup recently. Maybe you've gone through some really huge transition in your life where it has forced you to embrace a new identity. So it hasn't even been something that you've done intentionally, right? It's something that's like the rug has been pulled from under you. And all of a sudden you're in this new identity. Maybe you had a breakup and now you're newly single and it's just like, oh my gosh, what do I do with my life? I was this identity with this other person for so long. What happens now? That can be that can have a tower moment, right? That's a complete tower moment where you're experiencing a brand new identity. Everything's crumbling around you. I am more speaking into the intentional identity construction that is happening. So this gap that can occur when you are navigating intentionally, embracing a new version of yourself, embracing the thing that you desire to have, and then you've received it. And what happens, this constant fluctuation, I feel like it's a dance that's currently happening with me. And so this overwhelm, I want to share with you, this overwhelm that I'm experiencing, or this overwhelm that you may be experiencing when you have received your desired outcome, when you've received the manifestation, when you've received, the fruits of your labor, essentially, whatever that may be, it is not a signal. So this overwhelm is not a signal for you to stop, and it's not a character flaw. It is a signal for you that your body is in need of support and not shame. And I'm giving myself this advice, honestly, because I've had a lot of shame recently. I shared with you with this transition that's happening, not to mention all the things that are happening in the world right now, and especially in the United States, and the overwhelm with the political climate, the Epstein files, what's happening astrologically. I mean, it is very intense times we're living in. It is a hard time to be a human being. Let me just say that. It is a really hard time to be a human being right now. Not to mention, if you are doing the intentional, spiritual, deep dive work, it's even more so. It's like really potent time. So I congratulate you for listening to this podcast, for doing the work, for putting in the effort, for doing the things, right? It is hard time. Bodily sensations that you're having and experiencing. You saw me like rubbing my neck and, massaging myself moments ago, because I was like, wow, this is like really intense stuff that I'm talking about. That it is a signal that your body needs support and not shame. I was shaming myself a lot. I was having a lot of self-judgment about, oh my gosh, how can I be this person who's thinking, waiting for the other shoe to drop? The identity that I'm creating for myself. And I should be doing more. I should be posting more about what is happening in my life so people can know what's happening, so they can relate to my story. And so I can share it on social media. And so I can get more clients that way. Like I should be enrolling clients. I should be working on my bliss method. I should be doing all this, but yet I'm like going through all these transitions, and somehow how am I able to hold this new lifestyle that I'm created for myself? Oh my goodness. Talk about shame, shame, shame. So I'm building this life for myself. I have built this life with intention. I have built all of this with intention. You've seen me from post breakup, having $200 in my pocket, moving into a new place and sitting on the floor and crying my eyeballs out and realizing that I needed to file bankruptcy, that I was burnt out. I broke up, I filed bankruptcy, and I had to start all over again. And there was a lot of shame around the bankruptcy. There was a lot of shame about the fact that I broke off a relationship of 8 years because I was no longer in love with the person, and all these different things, right? All these different moments where I've needed to listen to my body and understand that my body was signaling to me that it needed support, and it didn't need shame. It doesn't need shame. Your body never needs any type of shame. I am queen of self-judgment. I consider myself a very unjudgmental person when it comes to other people, and very often I will hear myself judging somebody and I'll be like, oh my gosh, Sarita, why are you judging that person? Right. But yet when it comes to myself, goodness gracious, I self-judge constantly. Why are you feeling like this? Why are you experiencing? Why, blah, 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 all these things. And it's very common. I believe in astrology. I believe my Saturn is conjunct to my moon in Pisces, which explains a lot. If you are an astrology nerd, that explains a lot. Saturn is the planet of pressure. It really is. Planet of pressure. Lo and behold, Saturn is now in Aries. And so that's a big impactor in my chart, and an impactor in a lot of people's lives right now, because that's a huge transition that's just happened in our stars. And so shame is something, and self-judgment is something that I've experienced my whole life. And it's something that I realize that has been a part of this gap that I'm experiencing when it comes to manifesting things that I desire in my life, and how it's impacting my nervous system. So I am building this life with intention. My pace has to be sustainable as well. If you're a runner, which I'm not, my ex was a marathon runner, so he used running analogies all the time, and he would use golf analogies all the time. And any type of athlete is, this is very important. Endurance is one of those things that's very important. And they say this in business, and you probably have heard this expression before, where you're in it for the long haul, right? It's a marathon. It's not a race, right? It's not something that you're trying to get through. It's not a sprint, excuse me. It's a marathon. And when it comes to creating the lifestyle that you want with intention, with ease, right? I talk about with ease on my social media a lot. I talk about that here on the podcast. With ease, when you are creating your life that you want to with ease, you need to put your pace as being something that's front and center, that it needs to be sustainable. If you are taking it off at the start line with a lot of gumption and you're sprinting right away, your pace is going to slow down, of course, because it's not long sustaining to sprint your ass, for, let's say, for like 3 miles, right? Like maybe there's some people that can do that, but your pace is going to be really important when it comes to long sustaining. And I realize that for me, that my pace has to be sustainable. As I am, picture the balloon analogy again, right? As I'm expanding, I also need to take a breath in between. I need to regulate my nervous system, right? However that looks like for you. If that's EFT tapping, if that's breath work, if that's yoga, if that's affirmations, however that feels like for you. Regulating the nervous system, ensuring that you are safe, ensuring that you are good to go, that success looks like something else for every other person on the planet, right? Success for you is regulating the nervous system and feeling safe. Because if there's anything that I hope that you've gathered from this podcast over the last 3 some years, is safety within the nervous system when it comes to manifestation is one of the most important things. Of course, it's not a reason to bypass taking any action or doing the other things. The body is the score. If you've read that book, the body is the score. The body has the final vote. The body is the thing that will communicate to you, always front and center. For us to listen to our body when it comes to the manifestation process is absolutely important for us for optimal manifestation success. And I've learned what is actually happening for me is my 3D reality is increasing, upgrading faster than my nervous system kind of signed up for. And I'm not saying that my nervous system is a wreck or I'm dysregulated, like that's my baseline. I've talked about this before where we have a different baseline frequency with every single win that we have, right? It's just like stacking, literally stacking. We create a foundational principle. That's what I had to do after I filed for bankruptcy. I had that little money in my pocket, started over with my life, is that I had to create a foundational system, a foundational baseline, a foundation, a new foundation that like I'm okay, that I'm safe, that I'm taken care of, that I'm provided for, I am loved, because all those things I did not feel. That was not what I was experiencing in my 3D reality. I had just broken up with my ex. I felt unloved. I felt like a failure. I felt like a failure financially. I felt like I had nothing. I had nothing to show me in my 3D reality that I was being successful, that I was having any level of success. So I created a new foundation for myself. And with that, I had to learn safety along the way, take a new action, safety along the way, take a new action, safety along the way. In those moments, I realized as I'm reflecting back to those times, because this is what I'm experiencing right now, the overwhelm and the self-judgment and the waiting for the other shoe to drop and my expansion that's happening right now in my Sarita 3.0 is that this overwhelm is, even though you may be feeling overwhelmed in these circumstances and situations when you receive your manifested desires, while you're feeling this overwhelm and things are working, right? Things are happening in your 3D reality, all the wins are happening. You're not failing at all. You're not failing. And I'm reminding myself of this too. Like, you're not failing at all. Your nervous system is literally catching up as you expand. For example, I'm just thinking of like a barometer in the house that I'm staying in. When I wake up in the morning, I go downstairs and I turn up the heat because at nighttime I'm under a lot of blankets. So I don't really need the heat to warm me up because I got the blanket. So I set it to a certain temperature around like 68 degrees. When I wake up in the morning, it's a little chilly. And so I go downstairs and I adjust the barometer to 72. Is it going to automatically feel like 72 right away? No, it isn't, because it does it in increments. The air that's coming out of the vents needs to heat up, and it takes time to catch up to the number that's on the thermostat. Same thing with us in our 3D reality. We may have the things visually in front of us, that 72-degree temperature in front of us. Sometimes the body temperature really needs to catch up to what is actually happening in the 3D. You see the 72 degrees. It's not 72 degrees yet. It will be in about 30 some minutes, right? Very simple. Hopefully that analogy helps you understand that what is happening on the outside takes a little bit longer sometimes with the inside. And sometimes the opposite happens, right? We've done the identity work on the inside. We're like, what's happening with the outside world? What is going on, right? It takes some time for things to integrate, and it takes time. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it's instantaneous. What I do know from my own personal experience, kind of rewinding back, I mentioned this before, is one of the questions that I'm asking myself, like, how am I manifesting so quickly? Oh my goodness, like this, it feels like magic. What is happening? I understand because I've put a lot of energy and effort and time into creating new foundational energies for myself, a new foundational blueprint for myself, creating new foundation for my money story, new foundation for my frequency. And that impacts the way that I'm navigating life. The way that I experience life is different than when I was experiencing life right after I broke up my relationship, had $200 in my pocket, had to file bankruptcy, right? That is an old version of me. Does that old version of me still exist in an energetic form somehow? Yes, somewhere. I kind of like to explain it as the version of me that was back then is now off the quantum playing field, if you want to think of like a soccer field, the playing field of life, and is now sitting in the benches or the bleachers, right, as the cheering team now for my version of myself. And she's no longer needed energetically as a contributing aspect to the quantum field, yet energetically, she's still there, if that makes sense. Do I revert to old habits and behaviors of her? Every once in a while. I just shared with you. Sometimes the self-judgment, the fear of my own power creeps in. That's old version of Sarita. Is that ever going to disappear and dissipate? I'm not sure, because I know there are very, very many successful people out there that still work through fear, that still work through scarcity, that still work through questioning themselves. I don't believe that ever goes away. I really don't believe that ever goes away. But what does go away is our belief in that thought, in that way of thinking. I now can be like, yeah, I don't really think like her anymore. I don't really believe the world is a scarcity thing. I truly believe that there's a lot of abundance in the world. I believe there's an overflowing abundance of money and overflowing abundance of love. I truly believe that now. And that's because I've put a lot of effort and energy into believing that to be true. And I've changed not only my mindset, I have also changed my internal state and my nervous system capacity to believe those things. Okay, I really hope this episode has been really helpful for you when it comes to the capacity gap, when your reality upgrades faster than your nervous system. I would really love to hear from you in regards to how is this kind of playing in your life? How is this coming into fruition in your life? How have you experienced this before? Maybe you didn't even realize this was something. Maybe you now understand that I put words to the things that you've been feeling or experiencing. If this episode was really powerful and helpful for you, make sure to share it in your stories and tag me in it and let me know what was your biggest takeaway from this. And as always, follow me on social media at Sarita Wellness, or you can follow me on my personal account on Facebook, which is Life of Sarita B. It's under Sarita Elizabeth. Feel free to follow me there because I share a lot of things from my own personal life, from the nomad life and all the things. And so a reminder, if you feel like jumping in right now on your manifestation journey, working with me, here are a few ways in which you can do that. I have an offering that's happening right now that is one-on-one Bliss Method coaching mentorship. That is 3 months of coaching with me one-on-one as we go through the framework that I use constantly to manifest things that I desire in my life, and then also the things that I've talked about on this episode. Also, if you are more about going at your own pace, make sure to grab the Activate Your Inner Wealth and Abundance program. That's at saritawellness.com/activate. And you can change your mindset and change your nervous system around money and abundance just in 5 days. Again, that's a 5-day go at your own pace program. Lots of journaling in there. And then the Bliss Method coaching mentorship I'll have in the show notes below, and you can go there. In the meantime, make sure to get on the wait list for the actual Bliss Method program. It's a group coaching program that's going to be rolled out a little bit later on this year. Very excited about that. It is the first decolonized coaching, manifestation coaching program there is out there. So lots of juicy things to happen. Thank you again so much for being here on this podcast. I really hope that it was supportive to you. I was hoping that this would be a short episode. Of course, it never is when I say that, unless I really, really am intentional about it being short. But I really hope that it was helpful for you. Again, make sure to let me know how this stuff is showing up in your life, and can't wait because next week when an episode drops, I'll have an amazing guest that will be sharing on her manifestation journey as well. Thank you so much again for being here. Take care. And as always, keep being the amazing you that you are. Take care and see you next time.
Hey love, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you adored what you heard, it would mean the world to me if you took a moment to leave a review on the platform you are listening to this episode on. By doing this, you are helping my mission to impact other women with their healing journeys. If you aren't already following me on social media, make sure to connect with me at Sarita Wellness to get your weekly dose of inspiration. I can't wait to be with you in the next episode, but in the meantime, keep being the amazing you that you are.